what's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Everything's good. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, likewise.
So, man, I love your story. You're coming to Kansas City. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Oh, likewise. I'm looking
Yes.
forward to being there.
Well, the cool thing about it is I interviewed Brody Buster yesterday, and he was a harmonica virtuoso very early on, got a lot of media attention, was on the Tonight Show, and he is so excited to see you. And we were kind of peeling back the layers of that world and how that works. So I want to begin with coming to Kansas City. What does it mean to come to such a cradle of jazz and blues? I mean, this festival has had a historic underpinning in this town. What's it feel like to come here?
Well, for me, it's a great feeling. I mean, it's I'm very excited to be there to get the opportunity because I heard about the festival itself, and then I heard that they had stopped, and then they started back, and I was asked to play there. So it's like, really, wow, so
Right on. So are you heating up this summer with shows? Do you do a lot of festivals and touring?
I
How's your
have been.
itinerary?
I have been. We just got back from Norway a few weeks ago. Then I went to a harmonica convention called SPA where I was nominated for the best harmonica player of the year. Rick Estrin won and Jerry Portnoy. But that was fun. Um, Going to Chicago in a few weeks to play Rosa's Lounge, and then of course Kansas City, and from there St. Louis and back
Okay.
here for the King Biscuit.
Okay, right on. So let me ask you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic hampered all the live shows, shut festivals down, changed our lives. How did you make it through that pandemic, and how good does it feel to be back out and going on to festivals and touring? How does it feel?
Well, for me, 5 years ago, I was writing more songs for people than I was gigging. But the gigs I did get, the gigs I was getting, when they stopped, it was kind of like, you know, oh man, there's nothing to do now. Because I was doing it for fun. I wasn't doing it, as as a business or as a way of income, like most guys were doing. And so for me it just took a lot of fun and took a lot of fun away and a lot of different experiences, and the experience that I was gaining, it kind of hindered that for a while.
So, you probably hear the word prodigy and virtuoso and all those things all the time. I'm curious, when did you realize you had this talent for music and that it was going to possibly be your destiny?
I'd say about 9 or 10 because I started doing the whole James Brown thing, the whole James Brown impersonator thing.
Yeah. So how did it all begin? How did you, from that point that you just mentioned, how did it kind of escalate and turn into a career and turn into albums and gigs? How did all that kind of take hold?
Well, so it's for me, it started with, hearing Jimmy Reed. I went and picked up a guitar and started trying to learn all of his stuff. And then I started getting into recording. So like at 12, I became an intern for the studio. So I learned how to mix, master, and record myself and record others, blah, blah, blah. And my first big gig in Chicago, my first gig at all in Chicago, was at the Logan Center. And my manager, Matthew, he wasn't my manager then, but now he's my manager. And he was like, "You got a record? You need to, you need to get a record. You need to start recording." And this was 2 years ago. And so, we went into the studio, recorded about, man, 20 different songs. Cause the first time I went in, I was good, but the second time when I came back, went back to Chicago, I was better. And so we recorded a lot of that stuff over, so on and so forth. And we put out the two singles, and now we're working on an album, my first album. And but it kind of started from, like I said again, the whole James Brown thing, because I really loved James Brown, and that kind of got me into the blues because through him I found Jimmy Reed, you know.
Yeah. So what's been the difference between you realizing that you were going to make a career out of music and it actually happening now? What's the difference between that kind of dream of what your music life was going to be like and how it's actually happened?
Well, in a way, I it was a dream, but at the same time, it was like it's gotta happen because I and even now I'm like I gotta make this happen because it's all that I'm happy with doing, you know. I mean, I like to work, so I'm fine with going out and getting a job and doing you know, construction or working at a grocery store or being an accountant. But you know, I even from, you know, maybe 12, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. Nobody's gonna tell me any different because it's just something that resonated with me and something that I loved just that much, and I still do. So.
So, so what kind of support sources do you have around you that are keeping you grounded? And I mean, because I think that's the thing that I realized with Brody when he talked about starting so early. Like when you get to that point early on where it happens so fast and the lights are so bright, you're trying to get air. You're coming up to the surface and you're just trying to breathe and take it in. How are you, what kind of grounding measures are you doing to make sure this doesn't get to be too much?
Well, for me, you know, I'm I'm not religious, but I'm a believer, and so, you know, I believe in God, and you know, so I keep that with me, you know, my mom, you know, my manager, you know, just those things because, you know, everybody's like everybody's always like stay grounded, don't get the big head, blah 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 blah. But for me, it's like I didn't it's kind of like being born. I didn't I didn't come here with anything. So I'm the same way with the music. I didn't come here with the expectation of doing this. So I'm not gonna, even if I get to do it, I'll be excited, but you know, I'll be the same way I was when I got into it, you know. And
Yeah.
I mean, but as far as, you know, it being too much, sometimes the business side can be because I mean, it's that's my choice to handle that myself. I that's the part of it that I love. And so I'll say it can be, but going from stage to stage and traveling, I love that. You know, I love the pressure of we might not make this, we're in a time crunch. I like that stuff, you know, because it's only more experience, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with life is um for me at least, is that, you know, there are so many things that you'll experience, but it's how you take them in, whether it's bad or whether it's good. If it's bad, you know, treat every bad moment like it's a good moment because at the end of the day, you learn something. You learn what not to do next time, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
S-
So
So, speaking of stages, what was an early show that you caught that blew you away?
the first show I saw was Bobby Rush, 5 years old. Him and his dancers. I've seen Bobby Rush at least 150 times. Uh, and I think at least Matthew, my manager, says that's probably where you get some of your showmanship. You know, I because I wasn't. We went to this little festival that the city was holding, and we I wasn't going to see Bobby Rush. You know, I'm 5 years old. I was going to, you know, play at the bounce houses and eat ice cream and blah blah blah. But I heard this music and it caught my ear, and I look up and I see this guy, and then I see these ladies. I'm like, oh, I gotta go over there and watch this.
Yeah,
And so from there on, it's like every time Bobby Rush was in town or every time he was somewhere that we were, I'm like, we gotta go see him, you know.
absolutely. Well, you know, when you love music, you become a student of all the musicians that you emulate and you love, like Bobby and James Brown and all these cats. What musician do you look up to and think, man, they had a career. There wasn't any marring in it. There wasn't anything weird. They just gave it to the crowds. They had a good career. Is there anybody that you emulate that you would love to see your career kind of be like?
Um, in a way, I would say Little Milton or James Brown. And the reason I say James Brown is because he was so consistent. I mean, he had his ups and downs like every one of those other musicians, but he was consistent and he was always doing it for the people, you know. So
So I'm curious, sometimes even when you are a musician, it takes you a long time to find your voice. Miles Davis talked about it. It took him a long time to find out what his real voicing was on that horn and how he assembled the cats around him. What do you feel like your voice is? Do you feel like you found your voice and it's just going to maturate like wine and a barrel? Or where are you at on that journey of really feeling like you got that voice?
well, I think in a way I have, but in a way I haven't. And I think we never truly completely find our voice because you always have to expand. You always have to change
Mhm.
because time changes. You always have to do something different. But in a way, the reason I say I feel I have is because you've got a few guys playing the traditional thing, but it's in my opinion, invention is the tradition. And so if you take traditional blues and you're just playing it how it was, that's great. That's amazing. But I try to put some freshness on it. And so I think in a way I have, but it's also, like you said, it's who you have with you. So it's the players in the band. It's the band as well that, helps form that. And I'm still looking. So, which I got guys I love that I use, but you know, those guys have hundreds of other gigs to do, with other people. And I'm looking for, a solid, band for me right now. And so, I that's one of the reasons why I say I haven't.
So what gets you up every day? What gets you out of bed? What makes you excited about this life of music that you live?
I like that question. um, just to know that, there's one more thing or there's another thing to be done, that there's an interview, or there's somebody out there who might see you on Facebook and say, I want to learn how to play guitar. Those types of things make me want to get up in the morning and keep pushing, knowing that I do this for the people, and not myself, knowing that even though I'm not big and famous, that the fan base that I do have, if I wasn't to get up and do this, they would probably uh you know lose some sort of faith in the music, and you know that another person wouldn't see, or hear the blues that I play, or that the other guys like Kingfish or Marquise Knox, those guys play. So
Right on. So let me ask you this. What stage have you played on so far that you were like, man, I can't believe I'm up here? And what stage do you aspire, the dream stage that you want to be on?
So the No Totem Blues Festival. I didn't think I was going to do that. Well, and then there was Lucerne, Switzerland, where I played with Freddie King's younger brother who just retired, Benny Turner.
Yeah.
I played with Little Jimmy Reed and Trudy Lynn. And that was like, wow. I wasn't expecting that. I would have never thought ever in my life that I'd be doing that. A stage that I'd want to play on, that's like that I've seen all of the guys who I look up to play on, the Newport Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
They had Muddy, they had Mahalia Jackson, they had the Dixie Hummingbirds. So, that, and I recently got an offer to play the Kennedy Center, which is probably not gonna happen, but it was just like, you know, just to get that offer was like, wow, you know,
Yeah.
because of what it was, or what it is. So
So what is it about you that loves the blues? Why this genre? Why the love? What is it about the blues that you love so much?
well, I mean, where it comes from, the background, even though it can be dark, the people, how it makes. I mean, you can listen to rap and somebody's like, I don't like that, but you can listen to blues you got, and same with rap, you got those people like, I don't, but you can, if you listen to that long enough, eventually you will feel it. It resonates with everybody. It's something that tells a story, and it's just, for me, it's just what I love. I heard it, didn't know what it was, and it immediately loved it. So, hey,
Right
it's
on.
love at first sight,
Yeah.
or first hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you could climb into a time machine when we get off this call and you could go back in the history of shows on stage and see one performance, where are you going?
That's tough. There's so many shows I would.
There's a lot.
One performance. I'd say I'd say maybe the American Blues and Jazz Fest. I can't really remember the name, but the fest where they brought all the guys to Europe.
Yeah.
Big Joe Turner, I mean Big Joe Williams, Muddy, Willie Dixon, all those guys were just over there. I'd go back in time to see that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone that you deal with on the business side, everyone that gets your music, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm just a person like everybody else. I'm just, you know, I have feelings, I bleed just like everybody else, and I'm a regular person, and that's what I like to be treated as. I My perception of me is just, a guy who um does something that he loves for people. I don't do it for myself. In a way I do, because it's my only way of, it's my only work. But at the same time, if you took away any money, I would still do this. If God said you can only do this for free, I would do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it if, I'm just, like I said, I'm just a person, man. I was put on here to play the blues, put on earth to play the blues. That's
Dig it.
that's my perception of me.
I
That's
like it.
that's that's all.
I like it, man. So let's make this full circle here. The Kansas City Jazz and Blues Festival, October 3rd and 4th at Monarch Stadium here in Kansas City. And my question to you is this. When you even go back into the lineage of jazz, from Bird to Jay McShann to all those early cats, there was always this blues thing. Kansas City always had the blues, even in the jazz. So, what's it going to mean for you to be in a town that's so keyed into the beginning of jazz with such a blues lineage? Is there going to be something about your set list and the way that you approach your set that's going to kind of reflect that kind of history of Kansas City?
Most definitely. Got to. I mean, that's the thing with everywhere I go. I try to put at least one song on my set list for each place that kind of tells a story of what that place is. And I think for Kansas City, the whole set list is just gonna be different for me. I mean, of course it's gonna be blues, traditional blues, some originals, but it's it's gonna be a different feeling. Because to be in a place is so with such a lineage and such a historical meaning and value. it, I think it'll I'll know it when we'll know when I get there. I'll
100%.
put it like that.
Well, the thing is that this festival had such a lore in Kansas City for so
Right.
long, and then it went away, and now this is going to be the triumphant return. So you're going to be part of a historic lineup. There's going to be a power lineup, like Brody's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of local cats. So I will make sure to have all these links in our show notes for people to get tickets for the 2-day extravaganza. And man, thank you so much for opening up. I have no doubt you're gonna have a stellar career, and I'm glad you opened up a little bit with me about your career now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey Jazz fans, Joe Domino of Neon Jazz here. Proud to let you know about the triumphant return of the Kansas City Blues and Jazz Festival to Legends Field at the home of the KC Monarchs with a stellar lineup. Grammy-winning Stanley Clarke, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, jazz master Bill Frisell, and KC luminaries Jackie Myers and Brody Buster. Tickets and more for this electrifying two-day event is found at monarchsbaseball.com, then click on special events. This October 3rd and 4th, join us as we bring magic and music back to Kansas City.